I thought we'd do something fun today. I have a Beatles book, and I'm going to go through this book kind of randomly, just pick a few tunes, and show you how a musician thinks. That's more important than just learning exactly what somebody always tells you. You want to sort of start taking this stuff and making it your own, but I also want to show you how easy it is to take music that you like, whether it's the Beatles or any other pop or rock group, whatever it is, and start making it your own. Folk songs, playing sing-along songs, whatever it is. If you just sort of work from the chords a little more and know how to adapt the sheet music, it's a lot easier than playing the sheet music as written usually. And the other thing is that sheet music usually isn't written too well, and I'm going to show you that. The exception would be if you go to musicnotes.com or get a book of sheet music that says pro version or something like that. A lot of times that is exactly how the piano part on the recording has been played, and that just started happening a couple of years ago. The sort of around, I guess, around 2010. At the time I'm making this, a few years ago, they started making a little more exactly how it's written. Like Adele, Sam Smith, Stay With Me, things like that. You might find the piano part exactly as written, but usually they try to do something a little differently. Let's see. I'm going to try to find not all these songs are things that everybody knows. Follow the sun, let's see. I Will. Okay, great song from the White Album. Paul McCartney, and I think he sings bass. He sings the bass part on this. Like, doo, doo, doo. It's sort of beginnings of that kind of pop a cappella, even though there's other instruments on it. So let's look at this. The sheet music has the guitar chords written at the top, and they are the chords you can play. If it says seventh chord and you're not sure of seventh chords yet, you can usually leave those out. Just play them as triads. And you can look at the Chords series on keyboardimprov.com if you're not sure about all the different chords. I have lots of ways to learn those. And that's a good point, because I want to use this video as a way to help you get into your favorite kind of sheet music, whatever it is, and at the same time help you navigate my site and where do you go to learn certain things. So I Will. Okay, so the chords are F, D minor 7th, and I'll just play D minor for now, G minor, and then C 7th, and I'll just play regular C to show you that works. So they have the melody and the chords at the top, and then they have the sheet music, which has everything in it. It has the melody, beautiful melody. If you don't know this tune, check it out on YouTube or get the White Album. I Will. It's Paul McCartney. And it's kind of a bossa nova feel. And so depending on where you want to start and what you want to do, that might be a good place. Maybe it's enough just to learn the melody to this tune and then maybe 4 or 5 others, and just have fun with that. If you played flute, that's all you'd have. So, flute players are satisfied with the melody. Sometimes piano players, we try to do too much, Part of it's because sometimes our piano teachers would always push us to play more and more and more and more and more. And just be happy sometimes of just going. Really nice. It's a beautiful melody. You can sing along with it even if you don't have a great voice. I don't have a great voice. Who knows how long I loved you? Just have fun with it. That's the main thing. Pick something you can do and then have fun. Learn that until it's fluent. All right. Let's say you don't want to play the melody though. You want to sing it or play it with somebody else who's going to sing it, or just get used to playing like you're in a rock band or something. I would just get to know the chords in tempo. And you could just do one hand at a time. You play the chords in the right hand and try them in the left, whatever. We're going to be working pretty much on a solo piano version of these songs where you would play a bass line in the left and the chords in the right. So you play the chords. Root position is fine, 2 beats each in this case. Or you can play inversions if you know that, or push to that eventually. And then the left hand, I wouldn't play all this stuff they wrote. You know, they have everything going on at the same time. You know, they have the melody, they have the bass line, and by the way, a lot of bass lines, they write it in a way that's on the staff, but it sounds too high. It doesn't sound full. It doesn't sound like a band. That doesn't sound like someone going boom, boom, or singing low. So I usually play bass lines down the octave. Or in a more rock song with octaves to really get it going. And then they have, this isn't a good accompaniment at all, because they have this boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, boom, chick, and it's not that style of a song. If you listen to it, you'll know that. So the sheet music here goes like this. That's actually pretty terrible if you know the song. It's got a who knows how long I loved you. So if you know that, this is not going to cut it, right? That's more of a traditional folk country approach. It's good for songs like Octopus's Garden by the Beatles, sort of adapted to Yellow Submarine. They definitely used it. But not in this song. And by the way, you should learn that boom-chin kind of accompaniment. It's very traditional folk style. Lots of cultures around the world used it, and it came into rock music, influenced a lot of rock from the country side of things. And I show how to do that on the solo piano and accompaniment series. You can learn from that. But basically, we want to do something different. So let's just play the bass line. Maybe just play the bass line alone a few times. And you'll notice it's our 1, 6, 4, or 2 in this case, 5. Very similar to the progressions I use on the Flowing Water lessons. And then in the rock and blues basics when we get into the doo-wop and the 50s styles. So, the thing I would do is just get used to playing the chords in the right hand and the bass line in the left, slowly. And do that for maybe an 8-measure section of the song, and you'll see things repeat. Immediately, if I do the first 2 measures, I'll then be able to repeat that with some variations in this case. Paul McCartney's a little too subtle to just do the same chord progression over and over again. But other people would, and it works great. And then you just try to get the feeling of the song like a guitarist would, or a drummer. You know, listen to the recording a few times. Who knows how long I loved you? 2, 3, 4. Who knows? It doesn't matter how I do that so much. It doesn't matter if I roll the chords or just go. It's a difference between bump, 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 strumming slowly, finger style, or just playing a rhythm, right? Or on drums, whatever. Think like a drummer, and you'll get it. Don't worry so much about all the different notes, as I'm saying. Now, the last thing on this song I'd like to talk about is the first ending. I'll see. It has the actual, like a pretty complex little fill here, probably similar to the guitar. Right here. Yes, that's what Paul plays on guitar. I wouldn't even play that necessarily. It's not even that great on piano. I would just do something that sounds pretty good. And once you get into the Flowing Water lessons, up to lessons 15, 20, something, you really get used to playing this kind of thing, going up and down a scale over left-hand patterns. Rock and blues basics will get you there too. So that's kind of how I think of a tune like this. if you want to, if that comes easy to you, or in a few months or year, when that starts coming easy to you, and you want to take it to a new level and play the melody at the same time, work on playing the melody as you fill in the chords underneath. So you can do something like, I was doing more of a traditional bossa nova, or kind of 50s pop. It filtered into 50s pop. Boom, 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 boom. Similar to the ballad left hands I show on the Rose in the classic song style, where you're going bum, 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 but a little faster. Boom, bum, 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 but it all comes really down to, like I was saying, whatever level you're at, taking the chords, little bass line, which is mostly roots, chord roots, and doing something in the rhythm. Play along with the Beatles a lot, you know, even just the right hand. Play these chords with the Beatles recording and you'll start getting it. It's like playing in a rock band. That's basically what I'm trying to do here, is emulate the experience of playing in a rock band. Let's look at Octopus's Garden, which I mentioned before. It's from Abbey Road, and it's got a traditional two-beat feel. This is just straight out of traditional sort of country western music. I'd like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden shiny. So you just learn the chords, and they're written here. So it's E, C sharp minor, A, and B. Hey, that's 1, 6, 4, 5, right? Very similar to the chords at the beginning of I Will, and also in terms of the chord progression, different key. And also it's the chord progression that I use in the Flowing Water and then in the doo-wop lessons on Rock and Blues Basics. So it's very, very common. You get to know this and you can then play it in different styles. And I would just play this, you know, like I show on the tune Oh Susanna at the beginning of solo piano lessons. You just play the root and the fifth. Again, I wouldn't play it in this register necessarily. I'd play it down the octave or with some octaves. Maybe pedal. That bass line, boom, 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 coming from the 5 to the 1, very common. Just they right here. Boom, 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 boom. Good. So again, they try to put the right hand and the chords, the melody and the chords in the right hand. Okay, so yes, that sounds okay. But it's not really that great, and it's very hard to read, okay, do they have all 3 notes of the chord here, or just 2? You know, it's sort of like a lot of sheet music like this is the worst of all possible worlds, because it's not great as a solo piano piece, and it's not great as an accompaniment for a vocalist. First of all, the vocalist wouldn't want you to play the melody with them, basically. So, what to do? Well, you could learn the same thing like I was showing you in the other tune. You could play the melody, and try to fill in the chord underneath. And then eventually, when that gets easy, whether it's going to take a week or you come back to it next year, if you're just starting this, it's okay. Just work with the chords or the melody for now and enjoy that. But once you get that, you'll be able to create something that's just like the sheet music, but much easier than reading it and much better. And you'll have a lot more fun with it because you can adjust the rhythms as you go along. If you want to be a little more straight in one measure, you can do that. If you want to be jazzier, you can be jazzier or more rhythmic, or however you want to put it. So now the left hand is actually pretty good here. This is a good left hand. in some passing tones. Bum, 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 bum. You can do that. This is probably very similar to what Paul McCartney played on the Beatles recording. Or you don't have to do it. You could just do the roots or just the roots and the fifth. If you're just starting out, just play the roots and the chords. I'd like to be under the sea, an octopus has gone in the shade. That works really well. And the funny thing is, if you know, on the internet now, maybe on Google, you know, you could find some of the, or YouTube rather, you could find some of the Beatles demo recordings, like Strawberry Fields Forever is a great example of this, because John Lennon plays the tune on guitar. It's one of the first demos that he made of the song, just so that the rest of the band could hear it. So he's strumming and playing. And the feeling of the song, and a lot of John Lennon's pieces, when he plays it on solo guitar the first time, is very different from what ended up on the record. And he tends to play what I just did. Boom, ching, single string bass note, strum. He does it on Watching the Wheels from his last recording, Double Fantasy 2. If you find the original demo of that, which has been released, you can find that. And it's very different from the feeling, like I said, when they added all the instruments. It's very much in this traditional kind of country way. It's funny to hear him play Strawberry Fields Forever and Watching the Wheels like that, because it's not the way we know the songs. But anyway, and then you could put in a little fill, you know, at the end of the phrase or something like that. Da, 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 da. Just outline the chord. So it's in between the vocal phrases. He let us in, knows where we've been. It's one of the reasons the Beatles had great recordings, because they tended to do that a lot. Whether it was a little drum fill or just a little something, they tended to make the songs come alive like that. But really, almost like the old big band arrangers did, the jazz band arrangers, making every little moment interesting. And they didn't always do that on their solo records after the Beatles broke up. So I think that's one of the reasons the Beatles records are generally better than those solo recordings. Watching the Wheels would be a great example of a time when they did that. That's a great arrangement. So now in the bridge, though, they do something different, I know, from the recording. They don't go, I'd ask my friends, although that works, right? Da, 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 da. But they tend to go more of a straight quarter note. I'd ask my friends to go down. So it's kind of here, although it's too hard to read with the sheet music and a little awkward. But you know, you listen to the recordings, try to get some of this stuff on any song you're working on. Try to emulate the feel of the recording, if not the actual notes. You don't need everything. And then they do something nice at the end of the bridge. Where is it? They have a garden with me. There's a little another step up there. So that's basically Octopus's Garden, and a good way. Oobla dee oobla da, same thing. Chink chink. Fifth boom chick thing totally works. In the left hand here, they have pretty much, I think, what Paul McCartney actually plays on bass. Boom, 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 boom. Actually kind of works here. It's a little awkward to play though on piano and do that. So you just have to decide. Maybe do it once in a while. And then go back to the 2-beat. Sometimes if you have something that gives a flavor of a particular song, whether it's a bass line or a riff, like on Day Tripper, that bum 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 bum, you can just play it once or twice and then forget it for the next 6 measures or 14 measures until that section's over, and then the listener still kind of hears it. It's still in your mind, and then you come back to it. You imply it once in a while. like I did there. I just played it at the beginning, and then I left it. And then maybe come back to it a little later. Sometimes those repetitive things are a little too much on piano. Let's see what else is next. Find something we can do. Hey Jude, okay. This is straight out of the pop ballad songbook, figuratively. And this is what I did on The Rose, the song The Rose. So if you look at the what is it? Classic songs, classic rock, pop, and country song series, you'll see how to do this. And I think this is one of the first recordings to ever do this. The sheet music is horrible. I'll play the sheet music. I mean, I don't know who has ever played Hey Jude like that. This? It's horrible. It's horrible. I know why they did it though. They wanted to get everything in here, right? And it's just too much. They wanted to get the melody and the chords in the right hand. Even though that's a huge stretch. Paul McCartney would never play this, right? And they also wanted, though, I know on the recording, the chords, they have this steady quarter note, but then they also kind of imply eighth notes, which I also show in The Rose. This sort of seesaw motion between two notes of the chord and the other. They couldn't do that all in the right hand. That would have been just impossible to play and not sound good. So they tried to get some of that by alternating the left hand in octaves. But it just doesn't work. No. So a couple of things. If you want to play the melody and the chords, I would just play the chords in the left hand, melody in the right. You probably learned it on a song like this. 2, 3. Don't worry, it says C7 sus here. It's just because the melody has an F instead of an E. Still just play C or C7 in the left hand. And I would just do that if you're just starting out with it. Just play the chords, hold them down, keep the beat in your head, and play this nice melody over it. If you can also play quarter notes in the left hand. Really nice. You can go through most of the song like this. The bridge is hard. The bridge has a lot of different chords in this song. But in any case, the A section is pretty easy. Now, let's look at this if you're going to play it as an accompaniment. If you're going to sing, first of all, it's in a high key. So not many male singers can actually sing in this key like Paul McCartney. So you might want to transpose it down. But let's just start here, or sing it down the octave. I would just play the chords, quarter notes in my right hand, and octave left hand notes, or even just single notes. Hey Jude, da 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 da. Just get it till it flows, right? And then you can start adding some little motion, eighth note motion in your right hand. You don't have to do it on every thing. You know, a lot of times people are, looking for patterns, and it's good to start out with that, but eventually it's more fluid. You just want to keep some real steady sense of the rhythm and do whatever you can within that. That's much more important than, am I playing 16ths, am I playing 8ths? So just start with the quarter notes and some eighth notes until it really gets flowing. I want to do a song I have in mind. This is not totally random right now. because it's one of my favorite Beatles songs to play. It's Across the Universe. It's maybe not as well known as some of the others. It's a John Lennon tune, and he just plays it mainly on solo guitar. Phil Spector added some choirs in the background and stuff, but Lennon really didn't want that. So you can now find versions that have been restored that's pretty much solo guitar. I like this because it has a flavor of Indian music, Eastern music, a little bit, and the lyrics are in that direction too. Basically I like it because it goes with the flowing water lessons. You can basically play this melody and just in the left hand, you don't have to play the full chords. You just play the root, fifth in the root, one at a time. And it sounds just like my Flowing Water series. Surprise chord there, it's G minor. See, if I want to get that third of the chord in there, the B flat, just to... So you can play root, fifth, and then the third up here. Just move your hand a little bit. Just because it's a chord that we don't hear, because it's not in the key, it changes. If you just play the outline of the chord without the third, we think it might be G major, but it's minor. So it's nice to get that in there. And then you can improvise on the tune. It's a lot of fun, just going up and down the D major scale. Once you get to like Flowing Water, like 16, 17, you'll be able to do this. Minor, B flat. That's where the Flowing Water lessons will get you. And then I do have some pop tunes that we start working on in the later parts of that series. I'm going to do one more. I want to find a classic rock, sort of early 60s, 50s bass tunes. How about I Want to Hold Your Hand? Okay, I Want to Hold Your Hand. Let's see. Is it here? I saw her standing there. It's going to work. All right, so again, this is ridiculous to try to play. I'll play the intro's okay. All right, little stiff on piano, but it does sound like the recording. I'll give it that. I would probably not play that. I would just play something like... Just the 50s rock, so this is what Paul McCartney plays on the recording probably. So it's good, okay, you can play that. I'm not going to argue with it being what Paul played or not. But on piano, it's not really pianistic. I would just go up, or play it once or twice and then go to something that's easier and more familiar on the piano. And this is the kind of pattern that I show in the Rock and Blues Basics series, the classic songs series with Johnny B. Good and Great Balls of Fire, and in the classic blues, and in some of the blues scale etudes as well. And it's basically just this. I just play it like Johnny B. Good, basically. It's where it came from, Chuck Berry. But the piano music tries to do everything. It has this bass line, it has the chords, and the melody in the right hand. Let me see if I can even play it. really hard. It's very awkward. I had to think every moment, and it felt so foreign to me. I would play, if you're going to play the melody, play something simple in the left hand. Now I say simple just because it's simple in me, right? I've played that for years and years and years. You're going to get there too. But if it's more simple just to play the melody, or the chords rather, E or E7. And again, I'm not playing any prescribed, predetermined pattern. I'm just going down, ba 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 ba. Sometimes locking with melody. Just whatever comes naturally, I'm playing in this rhythm. Might take you a while to get there, but you can. And it's much easier than playing the sheet music, and much better, as you heard. And then, or you could just play the chords in the right hand while you do this, even in quarter notes. The main thing is that this has an eighth note feel to it. Dun, 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and the drums are playing eighth notes on the cymbals. So somewhere, especially with solo piano, not in the band, you want to get that eighth note feel. It can be in the left hand, or it can be in the right hand. Or both, but you want to get it somewhere that comes easier for you. And it doesn't really matter which one. Or you could do different things at different parts of the song. So if I was going to play this in a band, it's basically kind of a blues. Not really a blues, but the blues chords. And it has one extra chord though, a C. It's the flat 6 in the key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, flatted. It comes from classical music, really. But Paul McCartney knew that stuff, and he, oh, dance with another. I can't hit it. It's that chord. It's a little surprise there to give you a lift. Real showman knows how to do that. Paul and John Lennon probably wrote this song together. So I'm going to play this, and I think this is good. A good way to sort of end this this session, because you've gotten a taste of the 2 beats, the little bossa nova with I Will at the beginning, the flowing water, and then a ballad and now classic rock and roll. I'm just going to play this tune. I'm going to take a solo using the E blues scale, which again, rock and blues basics, blues scale etudes. Actually, I don't know what I'm going to play. Let's just see how it goes. 1, 2, 1, 2. Was fun. It took me back to my days playing weddings. That was a sort of we had a Beatles medley or a few 50s rock and roll tunes. We played that. It's from the early 60s, but it's basically in a 50s style. That's how the Beatles started, by emulating Chuck Berry and the 50s rock and rollers. So I hope this gave you a good start, both to how to play music out of pop songbook, rock songbook. Get a few songbooks on your shelf, your bookcase. You know, I find that even though I know this is a digital age and it's easy just to get one song, you'll save a lot of money by going for a whole book, because if you get individual sheets, they cost more. So you get a Beatles song. What was this? This is $30. I'm sure you could $34.95, and it has 120 songs in it, and it's great. They're full arrangements. After you do a few songs like this, and you see, how you can combine what you know and what you take from the sheet music to come up with your own versions, it's much easier to look at just the chords. Then you can go to the internet and go to guitar chords and lyrics and just download that. A lot of times those are wrong though; they have the wrong chords. But sheet music does too sometimes. Anyway, so you get a little sense of where you're going with improvising and how to apply it to pop songs. Have fun.